Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm Pam Baker, your host, and I am really excited about having our guest, my friend Anne Keeton, on with us today. She's going to share a story about her best friend, and we're going to learn more about Ted, and we're going to learn about all of the really cool things that Anne has going on in her life and just the ways that she's helping so many people, including me, and we'll get into that. But welcome, Anne, to the
Thank
show.
you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
I'm happy to
Um,
be here.
yeah. So, we always start by just getting to know your person,
Okay.
and your person is Ted.
Mhm.
And I don't know anything about him. I just, know the snippets I've heard from you from time to time about your best friend. So tell us, like, how did you guys meet and where did this relationship start?
We met in coaches training back in 2004.
Hmm.
And, it's a very experiential training. And so we're sharing all these sort of deep, heartfelt wants, desires, dreams, upsets. So, I mean, it's a really intimate way to meet somebody.
Yeah.
And we just became very, very fast friends.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
How was the training? Was it like a weekend you're together, like, multiple hours? What was
Yeah, it was for 3 days. I think each training was 3 days, so it was a Friday,
Okay.
Saturday, Sunday. It was Halloween weekend of 2004,
Okay.
and there were probably maybe there were, like, 15 of us, and it's sitting in
Mhm.
a circle. You're not, like, sitting at
Okay.
desk, like, listening to somebody speak. It's, like,
Mhm.
experiential right from the get-go,
Okay.
and so, yeah, so, I mean, it was a group that the whole group stayed really bonded,
Okay.
and then he and I in particular, so one other girlfriend and I have stayed really, really connected. And then he and I were really, really connected after that. And then we sort of, we would have we'd host a dinner or whatever and invite some of the
Mhm.
other people there.
Okay.
But like he became, like you hear the word BFF, like,
Yeah.
best friend forever. And I was like, he was like my BBF. He was like my boy best friend because I have
Okay, I
really
like
great
that.
girlfriends and I have
Mhm.
sisters and I'm thankfully really, really close to them. And, they really fit the best friend category. But he
Yeah.
was like my boy best friend.
Okay. Okay.
And
Um, what I love that. My dog's wanting to bark now. What do you think it was? I mean, there were you said like 15 people in the group. What was it about him that made that connection so strong?
I he was funny. He was really, really funny, and we
Mhm.
really laughed a lot. Like,
Mhm.
I'll get into it late, but, like, we laughed our way through cancer, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
cried too, but we laughed our way
Yeah.
through cancer,
Mhm.
um, and I think he didn't have any his parents were both deceased, he didn't have any family in town, and he was
Mhm.
somebody who did develop, like, really long-term and maintained long-term friendships, so I think he
Okay.
was good at friendship.
He was good at that. Yeah.
And I think I was sort of family for him. Although interestingly, like our relationship was like really deep, but it wasn't really wide. So
Okay.
like when like the work that I do and your experience losing John, like I think, with a widow in particular, like the relationship's so deep and it impacts every area of
Mhm.
your life, right? It's so wide and it's so deep. And he and I were really deep, but we weren't wide. Like I was a single mom.
Okay.
And he was like a really good handyman, but he didn't like come over to my house. He didn't come over and
Mhm.
fix things and he didn't really interact with my kids and I didn't invite him to family events.
Oh, interesting.
It
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah.
It was deep, but it was kind of contained. But I
Yeah.
talked to him probably, I mean, every day.
Yeah.
He was my everyday one of my everyday people.
Wow. That is a very interesting type of relationship.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because we
That's
didn't live close together. If he'd lived
Mhm.
closer, maybe it would have been like, "Oh,
Mhm.
come over and have dinner," or, "Hey,
Yeah.
can you fix my toilet?" One time
Mhm.
we did do a renovation, like a put beadboard in my office one time. So he did do
Mhm.
that. But I mean, he could have done a lot of that. And
Yeah.
I think he would have enjoyed being over here, not like just me getting something out of him. I think he would have
Yeah.
enjoyed it and he was good
Right.
at it.
Yeah.
But we just didn't. It was just I don't know. It was like we met in this one way and then we interacted in this one way and it was sort of contained,
Mhm. Was
though it
it
was
very
very intimate and very deep.
Yeah, that's, like, so super deep in the emotion and sharing, well, probably because of the type of work it was anyway. Because
Right.
by nature, you're doing that, so it's not like you're
Yes.
like, "Okay, let's get to know each other and have this." deep thing, but you're like, as you're getting to know each other, it's deep. So
Yes.
that's an unusual way to start
It
a
is an
relationship.
unusual way to meet somebody. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
maybe because the depth was there just by virtue of the way that we met and the way we interacted, it was like, "Oh, we don't have to socialize a lot
mhm. Yeah.
because 'cause we're
Yeah. There was always
talking every
like
day
a
and connecting."
deep connection formed. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
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 So he was funny.
He
Um,
was he was
well,
funny,
but
and we did try to work together.
you did.
We tried, but we didn't get
Uh-huh.
any work done because we just laughed and talked.
She would just laugh.
We did, and we said, "Wow, we've got, like, the best culture, and we've got the worst bottom line because we don't
And
actually
oh my
accomplish
god,
anything together."
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah.
Oh my
So,
god. I
it
love that.
it wa
I love
but what
that.
was cool was we picked a logo, which we both really liked, even though we didn't do anything with it, and then when he died, that's the logo that I use today, which I
Oh.
absolutely love.
Oh, the one that's always on your screen where
Mhm.
oh, I love that. I didn't
Uh-huh.
know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a cool way to have him, like, right there with you
Yeah.
too.
Well, that's true, and I hadn't thought about yes, yeah, he's like a part of my everyday world
Yeah.
just with
Oh,
my
that's
logo.
really cool.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. What besides being funny, like, what are some other things? Like, one of the things we talk about on this podcast is how people just stop talking about the person who dies. And, people feel weird about it and they don't wanna make you cry or they don't wanna be upset themselves. So, like, for somebody who didn't get a chance to know Ted, what are some of the things that you would want them to know about him?
Well, as I said, he was really funny and he was
Mhm.
deep, I mean, like, a lot of people won't have those conversations
Mhm.
with you, and so it was interesting. It was the cleanest friendship I ever had with a man.
Wow.
And when we tried to work together, we were like, "Okay, let's take organizational coaching class together so we can
Mhm.
work with the organizations." And in the training, like, you have to coach a relationship.
Mhm.
And so I said, "Oh, we should offer up our relationship as a coaching session that
Mhm.
somebody could do for their own homework, right? Because everybody had
Yeah.
to find somebody to do." And I said, "That would be great." And the coach brought up, like, sex or romance, and I was
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
and I mostly am really comfortable about talking about whatever, but I was like, "Oh my god, I don't wanna talk about
Mhm.
that."
Yeah.
Well, we did talk about it a little bit, and I was like, "I will protect this friendship at all costs." Like, that's not happening. That's not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Oh, wow.
And then the next day, we're in the training, and, he's somebody that I feel enormously comfortable with, but I mean, I was like, I
Mhm.
hardly wanted to look at him or talk to
Yeah.
him.
Oh my god. It's
He's like, "Are we"
awkward.
Yeah, it was. He was like, "Are we okay?" I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna be okay."
Yeah.
But as uncomfortable as it was, what came out of it was this, like, super clean
Yeah.
friendship. 'Cause, friendship between men and women can get
Really hard, really tricky. Really
yes,
tr
it can be that, and we were spending a lot of time together, and talking a
Mhm.
lot, and we're very connected, and so it was interesting, like, as I was thinking through this, like, it was the cl in life, he was the cleanest friendship with a man I ever had, and he was
Mhm.
17 years older than me. Like, there was no way. There were so many
Yeah.
reasons that that was not
Yeah.
happening, right? And I knew it wasn't
Yeah.
happening, and so
Mhm.
it was this really exquisite opportunity, uncomfortable though it was, to
Mhm.
identify that and then say it, and then
Yeah.
he always respected that.
That's, actually really awesome because it is such an awkward balance to a line to walk, right? And then I
Yeah.
I wonder, like, how early was that was really early in your relationship where that kind of forced the thing or, like yeah, how far into it
I'm
were
trying
you?
to so we met in 2004. I don't know how far we were in. It was probably maybe it was 2 years later.
Oh,
Maybe
wow,
it
so it
was
was pretty far in because there could
maybe it was earlier than that, maybe it was later than that.
yeah. But it is one of those tricky things, especially when you're talking intimacy, you're talking all of these things that would be like a natural place to go into
Yes,
take a different turn in the relationship.
yes.
So that's awesome that it was sort of forced, even though it was awkward, but
Yep,
setting that clear thing because
it
that's
was such a gift. It was yes, it
so
was awful and
mhm.
uncomfortable, and it was such a gift.
Yeah.
that
Wow.
and I don't even remember who the coach was, but I'm so grateful
Yeah.
that she
That's
brought it up.
amazing. So he was doing, back then the work that he did. I mean, you kinda cover a bunch of different things. We'll get into that in a minute, but his, like, specialty area with work, that's what organizational.
He had been really successful in corporate America,
Okay.
and so he was doing a lot of executive coaching
Okay.
and working with an organization that goes in and,
Mhm.
provides those services for big
Yeah.
companies and stuff
Okay.
like that. So
Oh, that's
so
cool.
so we were related, but who we were serving was different.
Different. Okay.
He was very corporate. I mean, he had individual, like, clients that he was
Yeah.
sort of coaching through life issues, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was much more corporate.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense. I mean, that's cool. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense. I can see how it would be complementary,
yes.
not like having a business model that is together
Yeah.
because you're kind of serving, like you said, different
Yes.
populations. It'd be complementary, but
Right.
also.
And we
Yeah.
tried to find, somebody that we might serve to get, and maybe that was it.
Mhm.
Maybe it just didn't work. But
Mhm.
what was cool was that the business not working didn't impact the
Good.
friendship. The
Right.
friendship came
That is very
first.
cool.
And then we tried to
Yeah.
do some business and we weren't good at it together.
Yeah.
Oh, and he drank so much coffee. And he had that awful, and I would drink coffee, but I wanted cream. He would give me, he got like that big container of that awful coffee mate powder.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I was like,
Uh-huh.
no, no,
No, that's not it.
but anyway, that was not the reason the business failed, but
It
uh,
wasn't over the Coffee Mate coffee
no,
creamer?
no,
No? Oh my god.
I wanted real
Yes.
cream. So,
That's
yeah,
hilarious. Oh
yeah.
my god. So did you when you guys were working together, you said you didn't live close by, but did you do a lot of stuff? I'm just trying to get the dynamics in my head, like a lot of stuff that was in person, or you did a lot of virtual stuff back then, there wasn't as
No, it
much.
wasn't any virtual. There wasn't any virtual. I mean, I guess Skype was around, but we weren't
Oh,
Skyping,
true, Skype.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know when I first would have met Skype, but no, it was.
Mhm,
I mean, mostly we were talking on the phone, or I'd go to. He
mhm.
lived off of Powers Ferry, Howell Mill area. So I mean, it was a
Uh-huh.
35-minute drive, so it wasn't close. So
Okay, yeah.
I don't even
Not
think that
super
working
convenient. You're
together.
not there with.
No, and I don't think the attempted working together probably even lasted that long
Mhm.
because I think it was pretty evident quickly
It wasn't
that
gonna be
we
a
weren't
thing.
accomplishing anything
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
getting the logo, which was a big
Which
accomplishment.
is big. That is really awesome. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Um, do you have, like, a favorite memory? I mean, there's lots of laughter, obviously, but is there any particular time that really stands out that you just really treasure that memory?
I mean, it seems kind of weird to say cancer.
Mhm.
So we met in 2004. He was diagnosed with esophageal cancer in May of 2010.
Okay.
And um and it was I mean, it wasn't planned in advance, but we had a really interesting model of care. So he'd been a bachelor for a long time, and during his journey with cancer, there were two different women that he dated, not at the same time, but one and then the next one. And both of those women happened to have lost partners to cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so neither one of them had the bandwidth or the willingness or the ability to go do the doctor's appointments. So
Interesting.
I was the wingman. I did all the doctor's appointments.
Mhm.
And then they did all the like TLC home stuff,
Caregiving
kind of
part.
nurturing stuff.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have to do that and they didn't have to do the doctor's appointments. And without trying, it just ended up being this really nice division of
Mhm.
labor, which I
Yeah.
think is a good model, for other people
Mhm.
to consider. Like, it like, and I found a blog post that I'd written, after he died, which was like, and I wasn't doing everything. I was doing that one piece.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, the support people need support. Like, this is
Yeah.
really, really hard.
Mhm.
And that was me just doing doctor's appointments. And I mean,
Right.
having lots of conversations. So, I mean, there was still a lot of emotional support, but I wasn't having to do everything else on top of that. So I can't
Mhm.
imagine doing all of that alone.
Yeah.
And I
Uh-huh.
mean, I said it earlier, we laughed our way through cancer,
Yeah.
and how it was possible, but it seemed like it was consistently the case that we'd go for the appointment and we'd wait an hour and a half or 2 hours to even be seen. And then we'd
Don't.
get in the
Oh.
room and it seemed like we'd wait another hour.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was the waiting was insane.
Insane.
Um, and so but we did. I mean, sometimes, like, they'd come shut the door because 'cause we're laughing so much,
Oh my god.
and we're, like, potentially disturbing other people, and then there were often tears. I mean, it seemed like every time they messed with his port, like,
Mhm.
something about that was just, like, it just,
Yeah.
like, it kind of it pierced my heart, and I would cry.
Mhm.
So it's not
Yeah.
that there weren't tears, and it's not that
Right.
there wasn't fear. There was just also so much laughter
Yeah.
and being able to be with him through that.
Mhm.
And it seems like I should have a more fun best
Oh, but
memory.
I get that because those times are also very bonding too. They're
Yeah.
also very, treasured. I say that about some of the things with John where it sounds it is tragic. It's also tragic, but
Yeah.
it's there are times that are, like, really horrible times, like, I mean, this is a silly, stupid story, but funny, and it's one of the it actually pops up on my Facebook page, but nobody knows the story behind the picture, but it was one of his, times he had to go in for a craniotomy, and he was, he was kinda hairy, and so he had gone in and he had that where however, there was a certain piece of, patch like a bandage that they'd put on his lower back, like, almost his butt,
Okay.
and that held something, I don't know, part of the anesthesiology stuff or something. It was whenever he went to surgery, he'd have that big bandage on his lower back, and they'd take it off and it'd rip all the hair out of his, like, top of his ass, right? And it hurt so bad, so he finally realized, he was like, "I'm shaving my ass before I go into this thing." And, I was in there one day, and one of the surgeries he went in, he was like, "Oh my god, I forgot to shave my ass." And, so he asked the nurse, if they had razors, and she brought in this little disposable razor, and, then he's like, "Here you go, you get to do it." So I'm shaving his ass for him before this thing, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" But we were doing the same thing, like, he's prepping to go in for surgery in his brain, and we were laughing so hard, I was, like, crying, and so this picture that now pops up on Facebook every year, it's him, like, in his little gown, I think he has the razor in his hand, but he's like, "Ah!" Like that, like, just crazy, and I had just shaved his ass, and we're like, "This is so dumb and so funny and so ridiculous that this is our life right now." So part of the dark
Mhm.
humor, of this being
Yeah.
your life that, oh my god, you do just have to laugh because it's ridiculous. But
Yes.
it does actually really bond you
It
closer
does.
too, Yeah,
Yeah.
those are not your typical, the relationship is not, like a straight line. It's like, "Ooh, we're gonna
Mhm.
zig over here and zag over there, and now we have these crazy ass memories to
Right.
go along with our
Right.
relationship."
Well,
Yeah.
and that's what a relationship is made up of, is all those little small
Mhm.
moments, right? Moment to
Yeah.
moment things, right? And
Yeah.
so, would you rather them not be happening in the middle of cancer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And they're still happening, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would say that cancer bonded us. Like, it bonded us in a way. Like, we did have conversations that we wouldn't have been having
True. Yeah, it
without
does force
cancer, you
those
know?
those
So
deeper,
it
more
was.
intimate
It was a
conversations
very
too.
intimate experience. For an
Yeah.
already pretty intimate relationship, it was a very intimate experience. And
Yeah.
so I'm grateful, I'm really grateful for that. And he used to say to me, like, I can't believe you show up for me this way. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And would say something like, "Oh, you're so, not whatever." And I'm like, "I'm actually not that nice." Like,
Mhm.
I'm not like I'm not the helper person who's like helping everybody, right?
Right.
I
Not the
care
people
about a lot
pleaser.
of people, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that for just anybody, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yet he was one of those people, you
Right.
know, that
Which
I
is
wanted to go the
a
distance with.
privilege for him to be that person, but also it speaks volumes to you that he allowed you to serve that
Mhm.
role. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
big thing.
it's true.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
true.
Especially in
Yeah.
times like that when people are feeling extra vulnerable or extra scared, all the things that go when you're facing something like that. A lot of people tend to like tighten the circle and block
Right.
people out and, get that I can do this myself. I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want anybody to see me this way. Or, I think especially for men, it's harder for men to feel more vulnerable and more, I don't know another word better than vulnerable, but it is
Right.
like that. It is like in that space of being, um, I don't want to say weak. That's a terrible word for that, but you know what I mean? Like that, it's
Right.
just more vulnerable, just
It
being
is
more vulnerable.
vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. And he did a whole Caring Bridge thing, which was
Mm.
really nice. And when he couldn't write, I would be the one who would write. But I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
one of the things that he talked about in there was like having like, again,
Mhm.
not to link Pollyanna-ish cancer, but there are opportunities and there are gifts in it. And like him having to learn to ask for help and
Yeah.
him having to receive help,
Mhm.
and he talked a lot. And honestly, I think short of cancer, I don't know that he would have, you know?
No. No, and there are a lot of people like that. I know I was like that, again, going through John's whole experience, just like, "No, we can do this. We got it. We don't need."
Right.
And you learn very quickly that, yes, in fact, you do need a
Yeah.
lot of help.
Right.
You do.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take that role on and also be navigating your regular everyday life
Right.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and see that there again, like even with cancer, the relationship was still somewhat contained, right? Because
Mhm.
it wasn't having to intersect with all of the rest of his life. Now
Mhm.
I was a single mom and I was raising kids and it was just like kids, kids work cancer, kids work Ted, kids work Ted. I mean, it felt like
Mhm.
sort of the rest of my life did kind of
Yeah.
evaporate. And yet I wasn't managing the rest of his life
Mhm. Right.
on top of my own.
It wasn't 24/7.
It was not 24/7.
Mhm.
Right,
Ye
yes, like your experience, you're
Mhm.
living it, your children are living it, you're worrying about John, you're worrying about your
Mhm.
kids, you're worrying about the household, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's that depth and that width
Right.
of your experience, and mine was still even in cancer, mine was still more contained.
Mhm. Yeah, it's such a very unique role. I don't know that
Mhm.
I've ever heard that anybody else have like that very specific
Yeah.
role. Yeah, that's really cool though. How long from diagnosis to till he passed away? Like what was that journey like?
So he was diagnosed in May of 2010 and he died in July of 2011.
Oh, wow.
So,
It wasn't
no, not
super
not July, sorry, December of 2011.
so
So, a year
basically
and a half. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And he
So
he had to go through chemo and what was his
yeah,
process?
chemo and radiation, and so I would do, I mean, I went to all the doctor's appointments, I would go to the infusion suite with him.
Oh,
I'm trying
wow.
to remember if I don't know if I went to I think I went to all the infusions, but I may
Mhm.
not have. Radiation he could do
Mhm.
on his own,
Okay.
um, and I was at every doctor's appointment except one, and the one that I missed because I was with the fellow I was seeing, his brother had died, so I was with him, and the one appointment I missed was the one where they told Ted the cancer had come back.
Oh, God.
So it was, it was awful. And, we talk about grief, well, people don't know this yet, but, so I do grief recovery
Mhm.
coaching. That's one of the things that I do. And we use the definition as conflicting feelings. Grief is conflicting feelings
Yeah.
about the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behavior. And it was just so interesting. So so he gets diagnosed in May of 2010. I get certified in grief recovery in July of 2011. And,
Okay.
and I come home and it's talk about ridiculous. I'm like, I'm so clever. I'm
Mhm.
so smart.
Uh-huh.
Now that I know what to do with grief, I won't have to have any. I
Oh,
found a
and
backdoor way around grief.
yep.
Aren't I wonderful? In
Yes.
my
Her.
wisdom.
Mhm.
So that's July of 2011. Well, he dies December 3rd. January 16th, I get laid off, and then January 28th, my dog dies.
Oh my
It
god.
was like 8 weeks, Saturday to Saturday, and I mean, I just felt like I'd gotten my ass kicked up one side of the field and
Yeah.
down the other, and it was like, okay, yeah, so much for this plan of
Yeah.
not having any grief.
Mm.
That's not happening,
That's not it. That's not it.
I'm glad now,
Mhm.
I'm really glad now I know what to do with it, but,
But
but I thought, like the whole like his whole journey, like he was sort of doing all the right things,
Mhm.
Like he was eating and he was taking care of his body and he
Mhm.
was doing the stuff with his mind. And it just seemed like he was going to be the person who
Yeah,
would
who
beat
could
it,
who would beat it, yeah.
you know? And he
Ugh.
didn't. And it was so frustrating too, because like my dad's a doctor, and I would say, I just wish somebody could tell me if we're in Kansas or California. Like,
Mm. Mhm.
where are we?
Yeah.
And to like, it just seemed like no. If they knew, maybe they didn't know. But
Yeah,
if the medical people knew, they weren't telling us. And then
interesting.
finally, September of 2011, he goes to get a second opinion,
Mhm.
and he asks the doctor point blank, you know, what would you say my prognosis is?
And so the cancer had gone. It did he ever truly have remission, or it was like a constant state of treatment and it just didn't
I think it
like
was more treatment. Yeah. So he had the big operation. So he's diagnosed in May as the big operation at um Thanksgiving, where they
Mhm.
cut out a bunch of his esophagus. They
Okay.
say, I'm always suspicious when I hear we got it all. They say we
Mhm.
got it. You're
Mhm.
great. And then maybe by January, it was
Okay.
January because I was at that funeral. So the end of January was when he found out that no, it was back. So
Oh,
I guess
wow.
there were a few months there.
Yeah.
Um, but and then then I don't know when it got really I guess in July I'm still thinking he's going to be okay. July of
Right.
2011 I'm still thinking he's going to be okay. And then but one of the things that I noticed was like feeling afterwards, like feeling like I had lost him like you asked like what was it like, and like feeling like I had lost
Mhm.
him before I lost him.
Yeah.
Because, like, so he was my, everyday person, and it was a really reciprocal friendship. So, we talk about his stuff and then we talk about my stuff. But then it was like
Mhm.
cancer came on the scene, and then it was like cancer hijacked everything, and it was all about
Um,
cancer.
mhm. Yeah, it
You
takes
know,
over your entire
well,
life. Mhm.
it does. What the numbers were, when the
Mhm.
appointments were, how he slept, how he ate, where he slept, how he
Yeah.
felt. Like just, and again, I wasn't living with him, right? I wasn't the
Right.
24/7 person, and it still felt like cancer hijacked the relationship.
Mhm.
And again,
Yeah.
in some ways, it made it more intimate. But it was like both of us, I think we both sort of gave into that. And there was one time I
Mhm.
was working a job and I was getting a new general manager, and I was having a meeting, and I called Ted and he started to talk about cancer, and I was like, I can't talk about cancer. I need to
Yeah.
talk about this meeting.
Right.
I need you to prep me for this meeting. And
Oh,
I
good.
wish in hindsight I had done more of that. I think more of that
Yeah.
would have been beneficial to him and beneficial to me, you
Mm.
know? But
Well, and I
neither
was
of
gonna
us
ask
did. I
you that.
did that one time.
Well, because it's almost like, and I'm saying this from my own experience. It's like everyday life things become they don't become irrelevant, they feel irrelevant. And
Mhm.
you're like, they just seem so small. So the normal everyday life things that you guys, I'm sure, talked about all the time, that's your daily conversations. You're like, "Well, I don't need to talk about how that person cut me off on the road, and now I'm annoyed
Right.
with him and wanna talk trash about him,"
Yes.
'cause, he's dealing with cancer and probably dying. You don't bring up
Yes.
those things. So I think that's a really interesting point and a really, like, pearl of wisdom that you just dropped right there, because we don't. You don't talk about the everyday things just
Mhm.
because they feel trivial.
Right.
But I'm sure for both relationship sakes, his and yours had, or me and John or whomever,
Right.
you keep that part of life, uh, not it doesn't have to be the focal,
Right.
but the norm
It's still
as
available. It's still an
it's
option.
it's an option, and it's a really good thing to do, and it keeps that sense of normalcy.
Mhm.
So you're not just in battle every day 24/7. You can have part of your normal life. You can still have that. And,
Right.
we certainly didn't do that. I know there's so many times that I normally, would have I felt this way. I felt this way with John in the sense that, if he would piss me off or do anything, I had bit my tongue all the time, and I didn't act like myself,
Mhm.
which, because I would say the same thing, like, I don't know how much time we have left. I'm not gonna spend it on something like this.
Right.
I shouldn't be mad right now because I don't know how much again, how
Right.
much time we're gonna have. Am I gonna waste my time being mad? But
Right.
that shit builds up, builds up, builds up if you
Right.
don't have the chance to talk about it. And then
Yeah.
you're just like, "Ugh," and I lived like that, because of course, but he had brain cancer for 3 years. And so yeah, one time I remember we were at the lake and I was like at my wit's end. I couldn't do it anymore. And I was just like, and part of that was he was on steroids and he was really being a jackass to everybody. He was so mean. It was like from the
Mm,
steroids. But,
right.
I just had to have a talk and say, you can't do this. Like, you can't treat us this way. And you can't, you gotta have some sense of control over this. You gotta try
Right.
harder because
Yes.
we're all miserable and you're
Right.
making
We're
us miserable.
suffering here.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are hard because again, you feel so guilty and you feel like this shouldn't matter right now. What matters is we're focused on him and focused on cancer and we're keeping him alive. That's a really tricky
It is
balance.
tricky. It's very tricky because it's understandably self-absorbed. I mean, I haven't lived through cancer myself. Thank
Mhm.
goodness. I'm delighted about that. And
Yeah.
it is an understandably self-absorbing experience. And it's hard to be in relationship,
Yes.
in that situation where somebody is so
Mhm.
absorbed in what's happening because you're still in relationship.
You are, and when you
Yeah.
think about, people talk about narcissistic personalities and all of this stuff, and they're terrible, and you don't wanna be in those relationships, but being self-absorbed is a
Hmm.
form of narcissism. It is I'm not saying John is narcissistic, but everything becomes about him.
Right.
The
Yeah.
whole entire family focus is about him,
Yeah.
and it has to be to some degree, but man, it does throw off the dynamics of everything else
Mhm.
too.
Mhm. Well, and I
So
think like that one time that I stopped dead and said, "No, we gotta talk about something else."
mhm.
We need to talk about me for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, he and I didn't talk about it after the fact, but I imagine that that is also a gift to him, like, "Okay, I've got something more to offer you than just
Mhm.
receiving your help about my cancer, like, I'm still this viable,
Yeah.
smart, strategic person that can help you think through whatever you're
Mhm.
struggling with. And so I
Yeah, and
do
even maybe like
wish.
a brain break from his situation. Yeah, I didn't think
Exactly.
about that before. That's really
Exactly.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
really
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I wish I had thought of that before too, because I'm sure, just feeling like they're a useful part of the
Right.
family or society or our friendship or
Yes.
whatever, still like what they think about matters,
Right. And
not
like that, yeah,
not just cancer. Yeah.
yeah, that who they are is so much bigger than cancer
Mhm.
and that they still get to tap into it and experience it themselves.
And feel needed and feel
Exactly.
yeah.
Feel needed and
Mhm.
valuable and important and contributing, you
Yeah,
know.
that's
But
really important. I really never thought of that before. That's
yeah.
really interesting.
But it's so easy to not do, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
only did it that one time.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like everything does feel kind of trivial in comparison.
Mhm. Yeah, it
Just
does. It
it's just
does.
not.
Really interesting. I
Yeah,
love that.
thank you.
Okay, that's a good pearl. I love that. Okay, so you became a certified so this I'm gonna tell everybody. Um, you know this, but when John died, I went to all the grief counseling and all the things, the grief groups and all the things to try to work through my own grief. And of course, it didn't work for me. Um, and for me, to the listener who doesn't know this story, I grew up Catholic, but I always joke and I say I gave it up for Lent, and it's the only time I ever was successful in giving anything up for Lent. But so I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. And all of these things were so churchy and so God-based that, um, even the ones that said they weren't, I was just like, I can't buy into this." So it just didn't work for me. So then I stopped, and then, of course, someone introduced me to you, and they had worked with you and said it's like one-on-one grief coaching, essentially. So I was like, "I'm down with that. I can give that a try." And, of course, that was, what, 3.5 years ago?
Mhm.
And here we are. We still work together all the time. Just on daily life. We don't do grief recovery necessarily anymore, but life just life coaching too. So yeah, so we've gotten to know each other quite well in the past 3.5 years.
Mm,
But so for me, that was a really successful way
mm,
to work through my grief and heal and be able to give myself permission to be happy and joyful and live a full life again without all of the heaviness of um sitting in the grief
yeah.
space day in and day out. So, and it's awesome. And I'll tell everybody, we just did it yesterday when I was pissed off at somebody, and you were like, "Let's do grief recovery real quick," and I did it, and I'm like, "Okay, now I'm better." So it's not just for when you lose somebody; it's like your
Mhm.
everyday life
Yeah.
too. So for me, it's been amazing. But you decided to like, what brought you? You were already doing coaching kind of stuff. So
Right.
what made you decide to really dial in and do sort of become certified in this grief recovery process?
Well, I had a coaching client whose mother had died when she was 12 of
Mhm.
cancer,
Mhm.
and she was mid 40s, and her life wasn't a disaster, and yet there was this big hole,
Mm.
in her heart from losing her mother. And what happens with grief too, right? So she's the youngest of several kids. Her siblings are out of the house. She's lost her mother. And
Mhm.
then in another way, she ends up losing her father because her father now is in his own state of grief
Mm.
and isn't functioning at his best. Right. And so
Right.
now she's trying to be like,
She's
and
so
this 12-year
young.
old is trying to hold up the sky, for her and her
Yeah.
dad. And so, like, of course, the impact of that, you know, remained.
Mhm.
And so we started coaching around that. And it was just, and I didn't know what I was getting into. She didn't know what she was getting into, but it was just like the
Mm.
most exquisite work I'd ever had the privilege to do. And a lot
Oh,
of it
wow.
was just holding complete space, and
Mhm.
she would exhale and she'd be like, I
Mm.
haven't felt this relax, since I was like
Wow.
12. Um, and I think it's okay to say that. Um, but so it was this fabulous work, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do more with grief, but I didn't know anything about
Mhm.
grief. And it seemed like if I was going to specialize in grief, maybe I should know something about it.
Yeah.
And so I found the Grief Recovery Institute and just got immediately convicted. I was like, oh, this is absolutely
Mhm.
what I want to do. And of course, to do it, like, I have to actually go through the process myself. So I'm really
Yeah.
there for professional reasons, not, I mean, I've had loss we've all had loss, right? My parents divorced and, I was, yeah, and I was already divorced at that time myself. So, I mean, I had loss, but that's not what was taking me there.
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting in the seat and I'm like thinking, well, this might be good for everybody else on the planet, but it's not going to help me. You know,
Uh-huh.
it sounds so dramatic, like nothing can help me, but it wasn't like I was feeling like,
Right.
devastated or
And maybe
I was just like,
maybe
this
you
won't
didn't feel
work.
like you needed that much help,
Maybe,
right?
I don't know. But I was like, but I spent a bunch of money to be there. So I was like, well, you
Yeah.
keep your butt in the seat and do it.
Yeah.
And I did it. And it was it was remarkable. And so I'd been life coaching before that. And I loved coaching, but I wouldn't really talk about it with anybody,
Mhm.
which it's hard to grow a business if you don't talk about it. And then after I got certified in grief recovery, I was like, oh, I will talk to anybody, any place, anytime, anywhere about
Mhm.
this. If they want to work with me, that's great. If they don't, that's great. I want them to know there's an option,
Right.
like just having to suffer and wait to hopefully feel better one
Yeah.
day. Like, that's an awful, awful strategy that doesn't
Mhm.
work, plus it's
Right.
miserable along the way. And so I was just, I was totally riveted by it and then dove into it. And so it was so interesting too, because so so he's diagnosed in May of 2010. I get certified in grief recovery in July of 2011, and he dies December 3rd of 2011. So, like, and then I got laid off. So I'm like literally starting and growing my business in grief recovery at the same time that
Mhm.
I'm like living through the most intense.
Yeah.
Like my parents divorcing, it was certainly grief, but A, I was 14. B, I was like sort of shutting it all out. C,
Yeah.
it just didn't, it just wasn't so intrusive in a way that I was
Mhm.
aware. It was
Mhm.
intrusive. I just wasn't
Right.
fully aware. But like
Right.
Ted's loss, and then the loss of my job, and then the loss of my dog. I mean, it just felt like a pile on. And I had
Yeah.
lost pets before, but I mean, I was just stunned by the grief I had over losing my dog.
Mhm.
It all just boggled my mind. And so it was really interesting to have that experience at the same time that I'm like doing grief recovery as a professional.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too because like one of the things with grief recovery, it's like, okay, pain it's pain and love is love. Pain isn't love, right? Like I'm not showing my love for Ted by staying in pain about him.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
good.
like I
Mhm.
know intellectually like that that's true, and yet
Mhm.
emotionally there was still my own resistance to doing grief recovery on him because it was like, well, what if I feel better? If I feel better, am I going to forget about him? Like,
Mhm.
what's going to show up there? Does it mean I don't love him anymore? Does it mean I don't care? Does it mean I don't miss him? Does it mean I'm not loyal? And like, again, intellectually, I knew all of that was wrong. And yet
Yeah.
emotionally,
Yeah.
it felt like, and I think grief is like this. It's like feeling bad feels bad. And the thought of feeling better feels bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we see it all the time in the widow space, right? If you I mean, we heard it last night when we were doing our event. Um there's such a common thread that widows especially, I don't know, I shouldn't say especially. I say I have the most experience with widows.
Yes.
Um is um there's that sense of betrayal. That
Yeah.
if you feel happy again, you're betraying them.
Yes.
You have that, like what you said, you don't love them anymore or you're moving on, you're
Right.
over it,
Right.
let's go get on with my next stage of life. And that's such a tricky place to be because it's easy to get stuck there
Yeah.
because it is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You feel like, "Okay, I'm feeling joy, I'm feeling happiness. I really want to go live a full life again," but then, skirt, I'm back here because A, there's the outside perception that the judgment you get if you're smiling and skipping around
Doing
town too
okay.
fast.
Yes.
Yeah, or you're not, or there's so much. It's so complicated and heavy, but the internal part is so big too, where it's that sense of betrayal, that
Mhm.
sense of you're leaving them behind, or
Right.
maybe I didn't love them enough because if I loved them more, I would still feel so lost in my grief.
Yes.
They're so it's really really tricky.
It is, it's very pervasive, and pain is so intense, and it comes in so quickly, and it lands so deeply, right?
Mm.
But what ends up happening is we end up getting in a relationship with the pain instead of in a relationship with the person, you
Right.
know? And so, like, it's it's a little bit like having like, even me, I had to trust myself, and I had to trust the process and be like, "Okay, Anne, what who knows what's gonna happen, but we're gonna find out," you know?
Yeah.
But I did interestingly, I did grief recovery. So he was in the hospital for 6 weeks before he died.
Okay.
He went in on Halloween night, and that morning, and I had been resisting doing my own grief recovery work, right? Like, again, I
Mhm.
know what I'm
Mhm.
supposed to do, and
Yeah.
emotionally, I'm having my own experience of grief and loss. So that morning, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do it." And I sat down and I did it all, which
Mhm.
turned out to be really, well, A, helpful, but B, fortuitous because then he went in the hospital that night and he didn't come back out.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And having done that day, and, again, we're in a human relationship. So he did things that annoyed me, right?
Right.
Like he drank too much,
Mhm.
and I hate to use the word always because always is a dangerous word,
Yeah.
but it seemed like
Uh-huh. Felt like.
always or almost always with
Yeah.
great frequency. He would report to me the physique of whatever woman he encountered, so like it's the woman checking him in at the radiation, and he would
Mhm.
tell me, whether she was skinny or she was not skinny or she had big breasts or
Oh,
she didn't,
wow.
and I hated it, right? Hate it. So but I did my grief recovery that morning, and in that, I got to acknowledge and address that stuff, and I got to forgive him for that stuff, and I got to apologize for the fact that I never told him, right? Like,
Oh,
I never
yeah.
said, "This bothers me, I would like you to stop doing this."
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
probably would've. He'd
Mhm.
respected my other, request, or,
Yeah.
I would like, to not have that much drinking when we go to dinner or whatever. But
Mhm.
I never told him that stuff. So, but having done that process before he went in the hospital and then before he died,
Mhm.
and of course, I don't know what it would have been like had I not done it because I only experienced it the way that I did it.
Right.
But it feels, and it was interesting when I was sort of thinking about our relationship in anticipation of this call. I was like, wow, I had like the cleanest relationship with him in terms of my friendship with a man. So it was
Mhm.
really clean in life. And then it ended up being really clean in death because I
Interesting.
had done my grief recovery before he died.
Uh-huh.
And so I had tons of sadness,
Mhm.
but I didn't have tons of angst and I didn't
Mm.
have tons of regret. I
Oh.
mean, I regretted that he did those things and I regretted that I hadn't addressed it with him. But then in my grief recovery, I did address it. So it was like, okay,
Mhm.
this has been handled. And I didn't have to say anything to him. I just needed to
Yeah.
handle it for myself.
Right.
So then that meant in his death, it was sadness without layering on all
Yeah.
that angsty guilt, regret, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, which is
Yeah.
also what makes grief so
So
terrible, right? Is you're second
yeah.
guessing almost everything you did. So I didn't have that experience. So this sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, and I kind of am. So I did do my grief recovery in a timely manner initially, but then after he died, even though I needed to do it again, it still took me, I think it took me like 8 months to do it.
Oh, wow.
You know? And I didn't
Yeah.
even have to cover the whole relationship. I just sort of had to cover since the last time I'd done the grief
Yeah, the
recovery.
last 6 weeks
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yes. So, the
Wow.
last, yeah. But um yeah, it's easy to think
Mhm.
that, yeah, that there's some betrayal or that somehow, like, we're honoring the
Mhm.
person by suffering. Like, what about John's life or Ted's life feels honored by me being
Mhm.
shut
Yeah.
down
Yeah. Living
and
half a life.
suffered, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
everybody would say that too, like, everybody would say they wouldn't want you to live that way, and you can hear it 100 times,
right.
but you
It's like
still
feels like
have
the
all
intellectual truth. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So it was very
yeah,
interesting to be like walking through that and doing it as a business at the
mhm.
same time.
That is
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
It's
And
really
the
in
business which got started. So one of the other things of my experiences with Ted was because he had such good friends and he maintained his friendships so well. So, and I was like the point person during his cancer. So I was the one doing Caring Bridge or emails or whatever and
mhm.
connecting with all these people that I would never have met
Oh,
otherwise. And, and he talked about on Caring Bridge, asking for help. And so after he
mhm,
died, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a page out of his playbook. And one of his best friends was this exquisitely brilliant, lovely marketing person. And I just reached out and I said, Sally, I need your help.
mhm,
I think I've got a business, but like, I don't have a business. So,
yeah,
and so she helped me. And I said, I've got this logo, which I really
mhm,
like. And, and she said, yes, we can make that work. And she gave me language for my website and,
oh, cool, yeah,
marketing materials. And like she really gave me my vision
mhm,
of my future,
yeah,
and it was, so it's just so interesting. Like
yeah,
all the, again, the cancer was tragic. I wish Ted was still here. It'd be really fun to see, like, what are you doing with your life now?
yeah,
Where are you
right,
15 years later? He would
yeah,
be 79, what's
oh,
what's
yeah,
happening in your life. I wish I'd gotten to see that. And, and I became really good friends with his brother. And so,
mhm,
yeah, like he left me. I felt like he left me with this net, which is a
yeah,
wonderful way to leave. Like if you got to leave, it's a wonderful way to leave somebody, leave them in a net instead of like
yeah,
chaos.
yeah,
Um,
instead of a dark hole.
yeah. And then because of his relationship with Sally and my willingness to ask for my own help in that moment,
Yeah,
then she gave that to me, and then I get to be that in the world and,
right,
share
that's
that
so
with you and other people.
I love that, I
Yeah.
love that.
I have no
Um,
idea how long we've been talking. A long time.
No, not. It's all good. Um, I do like I do like what you said a while ago, and I like to have put a pin in it in my mind because I think it's really important. The fact that grief doesn't mean someone died. You know, you can
Mm,
have so much grief in your life. So you're not just dealing with and it was important for me when we started working together. Like we didn't start with John.
right.
We started in other areas of my life where I had experienced grief, not necessarily even with the boys having being diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. You
Yeah.
know, that's a lot of grief to carry. And I never
Oh,
thought of
grief.
that as grief.
Yes.
You know, so it's like processing through the different areas or, it's like I think that that gets lost in um, a lot of most people because when
Mhm.
you think death,
Mhm.
and it's not there's so many other spaces in your life that you carry grief without an actual death.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I mean, people will mostly think death. Sometimes they'll think divorce.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
one of
true.
my first clients who came just because I was like, I want to get certified in this. I need to practice. And she came and she's like, well, I don't have any grief. You know, no, like nobody's died, but
Yeah,
like
but
she had so much grief, you know?
when you start peeling back the layers of the onion, you're like, "Well, this time and then this situation and that
Yes.
situation." There's so much that's
There's
layered in,
so
and
much.
you said to me one time, and you'll reword this however you actually said it, but it 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 stuck with me because it's like whatever has happened in your life that happened in a way, um like, whatever relationship or circumstance or it's not what you expected. So, take
Hmm.
this as for instance. Obviously, that's a whole 'nother layer because of at the time the boys were diagnosed, the life expectancy was 32, so it's like that anticipatory grief and the fear and all the things that go in with it. But, like, the relationship with my children that I thought I was going to have being a new mom was, you know, now changed. So there's a loss there,
Yes.
not just the fact that there's this impending diagnosis,
Right.
impending future with that diagnosis. It just wasn't, when you're a new mom, you're like, "Oh, you have healthy kids. They're gonna be doing this, 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 this." Then there's like, "Whoop, skirt."
Yep.
Okay, no, that might not be the situation.
Yes.
That's a big loss
It's
right
a
there.
huge loss.
And
Yes.
taking it even away, I don't know if I'm making sense, but taking away what CF represented as another layer of the grief, but just the relationship of mother to children was different.
Yes. Well, we
Yeah.
say grief is any unmet hope, dream, or expectation.
That's the way you say it.
That's the way we said it, and it doesn't mean that the hope, dream, or expectation is reasonable, right?
Mhm.
But it doesn't
Yeah,
matter if it's reasonable, and not that your expectation of motherhood was unreasonable, but yeah,
right.
it's like, no, this is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
This is what I'm expecting, this is what I'm
Mhm.
anticipating, this is what I'm hoping for, and then it doesn't,
Yeah.
right? And it's absolutely grief.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely grief, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's like you I think people probably seek you out most often for, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because they've lost someone. I mean, that's how I was introduced to you, is because this
Right.
person knew that John died. And I know that she had seen you because of her own family member who had died. So that
Yes.
was like the
Yes.
connection. But,
Yeah.
once you really get into it, I just think that's important for people to hear that there's so many different types of grief,
Oh, yeah.
outside of actual death that people it's helpful to work through.
Well, and it's so yes, it is. It's so much broader than death. I mean, so much so that like positive things can cause grief too, right?
Mm,
So,
mm,
like, you know, getting a promotion or
mhm,
buying the house that your dream house.
mhm.
It actually cause grief because it's a change in the familiar pattern of behavior, and so like while I'm happy about or having a baby. I mean, having a baby, it's
Yeah.
a great example. Like I'm having this baby. I wanted to have a baby. I love the
Mhm.
baby. I'm happy to have the baby. I don't want to not have the baby. And oh my gosh, am I ever going to sleep again? And
Yeah,
like feeling like I've
yeah,
totally lost my own life,
yeah.
like now
Mhm.
I like it's like the baby's taken over, right? And
Yeah,
so that's a positive thing, but there are conflicting feelings about it, you
right.
know? And so
Yeah,
well, that's a grief, but people mostly don't think like, oh, I had a baby and now I'm grieving,
yeah,
or getting married, you know?
Mhm.
Maybe you
Yeah.
married the person of your dreams and that's all exciting, but now all of a sudden, like, you have to share decisions with somebody,
Mhm.
and their opinion counts about, like,
Yeah.
what bedding you choose
Yeah.
or,
Mhm.
like, those are
Right.
conflicting feelings too, and so that's grief that comes with positive things. So,
Yeah.
it's enormously broad, and then what happens, it's like, and you might agree, like, with John, it's like, okay, so all the unresolved grief from the past, which has
Mhm.
understandably accumulated because we all have grief throughout our
Yep.
lives, like, and then you're going through the situation with John, so the current situation is made worse by all the past stuff, and then the
Mhm.
past stuff gets made worse by the present stuff, and then it
Yeah.
just becomes kind of this grief pylon, you know?
Yeah.
And it
The layers of
all
grief.
grief diminishes our capacity for happiness, so, like, thank God there's a way to do something with it
Mhm.
and not just have to, like, hope for and wait for the day when we magically wake up feeling better, you
Yeah, and
know?
just hope that it happens.
Right.
Yeah. That
Yes.
time heals all wounds,
Right.
but
Right.
it doesn't.
It does not. It does
It
not.
doesn't. It
No.
doesn't. So, yeah, to me, as I mean, this whole grief recovery thing is so, so important. I think if you wanna have any kind of a fighting chance at really living a fully happy, um, healed life,
Yes.
you have to work your way through it.
You do.
You
You
can't just
do,
numb
and
yourself to it to with antidepressants or, you can't numb it out with, whatever it
right.
is, whatever your coping mechanism is for life, right?
Right.
It could be, um, being a lot of people choose things that they just get obsessed about, obsessively choose that, and, for whatever it is, that you're still like it's avoiding the
Yes.
core cause of the pain,
Yes.
you're just
Yes.
burying it under something else.
Yes. Yeah, and
I
that's
remember
something out
when
there can't do it, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. That's
here.
when my daughter you know this story, but when Beanie, she was after John died, so hell-bent on not getting therapy. She wasn't even open to it. Now, of course, she was 16. She had been in therapy, but then she just refused. And she was like, I just want to be on an antidepressant. I just want to be on an antidepressant. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not. That's not what we're doing. The antidepressant masks it. It
Mhm.
doesn't help you work through it. And so she did end up getting on antidepressants when she agreed to
Good.
really give therapy a try.
Right. Yes.
And ultimately, as you know, she definitely made her way through that, and she's still
Yeah.
with her therapist now, but she's not on antidepressants anymore.
Yeah.
So she used it situationally to
Mhm.
to get a little life raft up to the surface
Yeah.
and be able to make the recovery easier. But yeah, I was just like, you can't just mask it with a pill. It's not gonna help.
Well, and I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not medical, so I would never say to somebody, "You shouldn't be on it,"
Oh yeah,
but I feel
yeah.
very comfortable saying that in and of itself is not enough, right? Because
No.
it's like we have the physical operating system, we have the emotional operating system, we have the spiritual, the
Mhm.
intellectual, and grief is the emotional response to loss,
Yeah.
right? And so if we're not giving ourselves a way to deal with the emotional
Mhm.
response, yes, can the antidepressant help?
Yeah.
Yes. And can it
Yes.
can it give us some fortitude to get through the emotional response? And we
Exactly.
still have to address the emotional response to loss because losing your father is a
Is a big
huge
fucking deal.
loss.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and there's definitely, again, just to piggyback off of you, like, there are people, including my other child, who do have, like, r clinical depression. So he is on an antidepressant, and he needs it. His is clinical, brain-based. Beanie's was circumstantial based. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So yeah, use it as a tool, not the tool for
Right.
her.
Right.
Everybody can do what they want, but to me, it's just like it's just another example of why, you know, it it that pill is not going to help you heal.
Yeah.
It's going to help you maybe survive, maybe get through this moment. It's going to help you, but that combination in especially a circumstantial depression. Yeah.
Well, and I love where you're pointing in terms of healing, right? Because, like, I will say that, like, so I've been doing grief recovery for a little while, and I called the institute, and I said, "Okay, it feels like time helps."
Mhm.
And Russell, who's one of the authors of the book, said, "Yeah, it feels like it helps because time takes it off of the front burner. Like you
Mm.
get used to this new painful, distorted reality." But that's very different than healing, right? It's
True.
like if I
Yeah.
break my arm, it's not the 6 weeks that heal my arm, it's 6 weeks in a cast. It's what I do or
Mhm.
don't do within that context of time that helps, you know? And
Yeah.
so healing is very different than living a painful, distorted life. And if I don't get the cast on my arm, my bone, reconfigures, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have the same strength, mobility, comfort, functionality. It's not healed.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so that's what we
That's a
want.
good analogy. Yeah.
Right. And that's what we want. We want the healing, which is something that you've done so beautifully. We want it for your sake, of course.
Mm.
And we want it like for your kids' sakes
Yeah.
because a healed you
Right.
is better for the whole system. And in fact, it's better for the whole world because look at what you're doing now for the world, you know?
Yeah.
And a less capacitated, a less healed, a less joyful you
Mhm.
is probably not doing
Right.
all the
Wouldn't
amazing things
wouldn't
that you're
be able to
doing.
do it. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there wouldn't be the bandwidth, there wouldn't be the desire, there wouldn't
Right.
be any of it because I grief is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, that's really I mean, that's a big deal. Well, um, I mean, we could talk about this forever because it's
We could.
important. Um, and it's just great messaging, and I know you see it all the time, I see it all the time that people just get lost in their grief, and they really struggle to come out of it for
Yeah.
all the reasons we mentioned. And just knowing that I mean, I didn't know it was a thing until someone introduced me to you. I was gonna just do it on my own or read a book or do something, figure it out, you know? And just having somebody who can really do the grief recovery program,
Yeah.
versus, um just dealing with it or
Mhm.
any other kind of I mean, you can do therapy, you can do there's different modes. I just think this program, it's almost like, it's almost like boot camp for
Yeah.
grief,
It's
you know?
true.
Yeah.
It's
So
true.
you
It's
can find
amazingly efficient.
it
You know,
is.
it's the only evidence-based treatment for program for grief. That doesn't mean other programs aren't
Mhm.
effective. They just maybe haven't gone through the evidence-based process, which is its own
Process,
big
yes.
thing. And this is evidence-based and it's experiential and it's so efficient.
Yeah,
But
like,
and
truly.
although it's also hard work.
It is very hard work.
Right.
So you're not
Hard
just
work.
slacking off in
Right.
the whatever time period it takes you to get through it.
Yeah.
Like you said, you sat down, you did the whole thing on TED in a day. For most people, it's not a day because it's
Right.
really you're reflecting on the whole entire relationship. So depending on the time of the relationship and the memories and the
Right.
lifespan, it's it depends, but um, it is. I never thought of it as boot camp, but it's really hard
Mhm.
but it's really worth it.
Mhm.
And you just put in the work and get to the other side and just feel that sense of freedom. I
Well,
think
and
freedom.
did you feel like yourself? I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Did you feel like you had less of John on the other side of doing
No.
grief recovery?
No, it's almost like you can have a better relationship with them, you know? I mean, I still have a relationship with them,
Yeah.
but it's not, you know, the conversation. I have conversations, and the conversations are different now,
Yeah.
you know? And I can joke about it, and I had to have, you know, the sex talk by myself. I'm like, "Seriously? You fucking asshole. You left me to I gotta do this now? Like, are you kidding me?" So there's instead of being like, "Oh, I gotta do this by myself," it's like
Yes.
funny. It just changes the dynamic of that relationship that still exists, you know?
Well, and you know what? It actually sort of harkens back to what we were talking about earlier when somebody is living through cancer and how do we have conversations that aren't just about cancer, right?
Mhm.
And even on the other side of his death, to now be in a place where you can have conversations that aren't just about death and sadness and grief,
Mhm.
It can be about like, oh my God, this is what I'm having to do with the kids alone.
Yeah.
Can't believe you're
Yeah.
not here doing this. Like it restores the full range of emotion and it
Mhm.
restores the full range of conversation,
Yeah.
you
And,
know?
like, it restores the relationship.
Yeah.
I feel like it really does, and that's a beautiful gift, you know? It's a
Yeah.
really beautiful gift,
Yeah.
so
Again, for you, for
mhm.
John, and then for your kids,
For my
for you to
kids.
be in
Yeah.
right relationship
Mhm.
with their father
Yeah, we're not,
in
like,
life or in death.
the conversations or the thought or the
Yes.
birthday comes or, all the things we can say, you know? "It's dad's birthday. How should we celebrate?" You
Yeah.
know? There's a definite shift in that. Definite. So,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's hard. It's hard work, but
It
it's
is hard.
beautiful, and, if of course, if anybody's interested in learning more about what you do, I'm gonna put it all in the show notes, and they can reach out to you and, just get
That would be
more
cool.
information, but anything else that we didn't cover that we should have?
I can't think of anything.
No, I can't think of anything either. I'm
I
glad
but
we
I really appreciated the
Mhm.
opportunity to, like, think about this relationship and
Mhm.
think about because, like I said, it'll be 15 years in
Yeah,
December, and I did do my grief recovery, so I'm not stuck in grief with Ted,
yeah,
and it really has been rich and meaningful for me to, like, revisit, like,
yeah.
the whole relationship and to be able to articulate for myself, oh, like, wow, this was a really clean relationship
Mhm,
in life, and it was really clean in
mhm.
death. I mean, as
Yeah,
clean as it could be, I
yeah,
think. And,
yeah.
so I thank you for
Oh,
the
good.
opportunity
Yeah.
and the privilege to be here, and
Well, I am grateful that you came, and I'm glad I got to know Ted a little bit too,
thank
because
you.
he sounds awesome. He
Yeah,
sounds
he
awesome.
was he was a
Glad it gave you space to really reflect and think and
yeah,
just be present with him with
yeah.
kind of forced carved out time instead of,
Right,
yeah, just to really sit
yeah.
with
It's
yeah.
true. Yeah, it's true.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
it's nice, and even like, wow, it's gonna be 15 years. I remember the first time I didn't remember the anniversary of his death.
Mm.
Like, I guess I remembered it the next day, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh,
Yesterday was the
I
day.
didn't
Yeah.
even remember it."
Yeah.
And then part that wants to feel badly about that, but then, like, to be
Mhm.
like, "You know what? This is life
Yeah.
moving forward, this is what happens. This isn't an indictment of me.
Right.
It's not an indictment of our relationship,
Right.
It's just that
I've
we're
thought about him. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
and it has been fun to go back and
Yeah.
really think through
Think
all this
about
stuff and think it through the impact that he's had on my life, in life and
mhm.
in death, and continues to have in death, and
Yeah, and then just have a little moment of gratitude for that gift,
yeah,
the gifts that he left you
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yes.
Well, I'm
Good.
glad that you got that from this experience, and I'm really glad you came on, and I'm really glad we
Thank
had a
you.
really long talk about grief because grief recovery is so important and it's so overlooked.
Yeah,
And people just don't a lot of people don't think it's worth their time or the energy or all the work that goes into it because the time will just make things better, but
right. It doesn't.
yep, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even know it's an option. That's like after I did my training, I was like, I just want everybody to know this is an option.
Right.
Yes. Would I love
Exactly.
to work with you? Yes, I would. And if you want to work with me, that's great. And if you don't want to work
Mhm.
with me, then go find somebody and do
Find
this
somebody. Yep.
because it works, and we need that for the world because it's
Mhm.
good for us and it's good for the world.
Yeah, we'll all be carrying much lighter energy and be able to just do better with our own lives and
Yeah.
with the world by just having more positive energy than
Yes. Yes.
stuck in the sadness and the grief. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes. Well,
it's
and we
like
probably
light and happy.
right,
Yeah.
we probably should mention what we did last night.
Yeah.
Should we mention that?
Yeah, go ahead. You
Yes.
share.
Well,
Yeah.
so wonderful Pam, as some of y'all know, hopefully a lot of y'all know, she's created this amazing group called Widows Who Whine,
Okay.
and gives widows a way to rebuild and reimagine, and so we just finished a 3-week series on designing your life mix in 2026, and now we're launching monthly wisdom circles and
Mhm.
action accelerators for the women to come together and know that they're not alone in this experience
Yeah.
and the decisions they have to make, and come together and be part of, to have their own team, right?
Yeah. It
Their
was
own team.
really special to see the reactions from it, last night with, because we did get into that, having the person your person that you can bounce ideas off of, and, all the things that you're used to having with your partner that you don't have, and sort of creating this space to create a new partnership with people who can help you work through those things. It was cool. It was really cool. I'm
It
glad
was
that was
cool.
that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll put that stuff in the show
In the
notes too,
notes. Okay, good.
case
Yes.
in case there's anybody who wants to join us, because
Join.
it's really cool experience, and we're gonna do them once a month now, but
Yes.
and probably some future series anyway,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that was really cool just getting to know some new women too,
Well,
and
and they all, and I mean, almost everybody said, like, how helpful it is to not feel so alone. And again, intellectually, you're not alone.
Mhm.
Like, other people are experiencing
Yeah,
this, but to be able to connect with people and hear their stories
yeah.
and really hear and feel the not aloneness
Yes.
is
Shared
different.
experience. Shared
Yes.
experience is big.
Yeah.
Really big.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kudos to you and what you're doing in the world and the way you're changing the world. And I'm honored and privileged to have sort of a front row seat.
You do have a front row seat because I'm usually bouncing all the ideas off of you.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
getting to collaborate with you in that way,
Yeah.
it's really great. So,
Amazing.
and
Yeah.
I'm honored to be here on your podcast.
Well, I'm honored to have you on the podcast and as a major part of my life team. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all that you do. And I know that it'll make an impact when people listen to this, like just the really, really, truly important role that grief recovery plays in living a good, healthy life. So thank you for
Good
sharing
stuff.
that.
I say grief is the secret to life.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, right? Like, being able to handle our
Mhm.
grief really is
Yeah.
the secret to life.
Yeah.
And there's
Life is
grief
hard.
all the time.
Yeah, doesn't need to be as hard. You can fix it.
Yeah.
Life is gonna keep throwing the shit at us, and you gotta keep figuring out how to work through it. Oh
Yes.
my god. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
everybody for listening, and
Yes.
I'll put everything in the show notes, but, till next time, take care of your
Okay.
heart. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Stop.